Hi, thanks so much for joining me. Today I have my 2024 favorite books of the year and my daughter's 2024 favorite books of the year. She's 11, and if you're familiar with my channel, you guys know if that she's in middle school. I homeschool her also, but also we share both of our reading. But if you're new to my channel, then I'm going to share her books at the end, but first I'm going to start with mine. Okay, so this was my reading journal for the year. I just used a plain little notebook from the brand. I think it's like Paperidge. So this is my reading log. I just kind of did it myself. I just wrote January, and just like by the month, I just wrote the books I read per month, and I just did a very simple system with the stars. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and show you that and then jump ahead. I also make note in here of the books that I DNF. And I did in the beginning kind of write these DNF codes, but then I kind of realized they weren't really necessary. But I just made up these like acronyms for these DNF codes. If anyone is interested in like different ways people create journals, but like I just did like not for me, NFM, writing style, dialogue heavy, nightmares possible, NC, no connection to character, TY, too young of an audience, TD, too depressing, and P, I didn't like the plot. These, like, I got real excited about these in the beginning because honestly, sometimes I will not finish a book and then kind of forget. So yeah, so those are my DNF codes. And then also I kind of did like book. I had a lot of blank room, you guys, because I just, focused on, mainly logging things. And I just did like character maps for some books. I did like David Copperfield, of course, lots of characters. And then some of them I didn't even finish. And then, but basically I also made notes of my DNFs and my reads. I did 2024 reads so I could keep track of the actual books I completed. So I also had a section of the DNFs I will show you guys. So in 2024 I DNF'd 55 books, and that is like pretty average for me because I'm a huge advocate for reading only books I really love. And I feel like life's just too short. Like I'm never going to get enough time to read all the books I really want to read and reread because I'm a big rereader. So I DNF a lot. And sometimes I end up going back to a book I DNF, and sometimes I end up finishing it. But most of the time, like I'd say like 90% of my DNFs I never go back to. But yeah, so then let's get to the books I read. So in 2024, I completed 31 books. And I don't count picture books in my log because I do have one picture book that was a favorite of the year, but I don't count them because they're so short. But I do count, chapter books, middle grade, and of course novels. Because sometimes chapter books just make a big impression on me, even though they are chapter books. So I read 31 books, and I want to say I did have a baby in 2024. I have a 4-month-old. During my pregnancy, I really declined in reading. After his birth, of course, just taking care of a newborn. Even now, I don't have time to read, especially towards the end of the pregnancy and now. So that number, I would say, I'm not really unhappy with it though, because I think 31 is still a good amount. And I don't really set up goals for numbers of books that I want to read, but yeah, so I did read 31 books. I kind of put these in a loose order, but I will say that I will start with my number one favorite of 2024, and that is Foster by Claire Keegan. And this book is a very short novel. It's a very quick read at only, let's see. I shouldn't say only, because it's very powerful. It is 92 pages. I actually hesitated to pick this book up because it was so short. I don't have a good history of reading short novels or short stories even. I kind of like more like mid-range or longer novels, and so I was hesitant to pick this up, but I finally did via the library, and then I ended up buying it because I want to reread it. It is about this little girl who, it's an adult novel, it's adult fiction, but it's about this child in rural Ireland, and she's taken by her father. I'm kind of reading the excerpt because I'm bad at summarizing, but she's taken by her father to live with relatives on a farm, not really knowing when she'll be brought home again because her family has a lot of stuff going on. Her mom is pregnant, and they just have a lot of stuff going on in their house. They have other kids. So basically, this novel is all about the divide and the difference and the between the two households that she has from her origin family, from her mom and dad, and then also this family that she goes live with, which are her distant relatives. She doesn't seem like she knows them very well. And then you feel everything, how like you get to experience that with her, going to these people's house, and like the experience she has and taken from her home, and then like the feelings at the end are so powerful. It made me cry. This book made me cry, and often books that make me cry are typically my favorite books, because it's not overly sad, but it's just very emotional. And I want to just read a short, like, couple sentences from it. It starts, "Early on a Sunday, after first mass in Clongowes, my father, instead of taking me home, drives deep into Wexford towards the coast where my mother's people came from. It is a hot day, bright, with patches of shade and greenish, sudden light along the road. We passed through the village of Shilag, sorry you guys, Shillelegh, Shilag, where my father lost our red shorthorn in a game of 45, and on past the mart in Carnew, where the man who won the heifer sold her shortly afterwards. My father throws his hat on the passenger seat, winds down the window, and smokes. I shake the plaits of my hair and lie flat on the back seat, looking up through the rear window. In places there's a bare blue sky. In places the blue is chalked over with clouds, but mostly it's a heady mixture of sky and trees scratched over by EBS wires, across which every now and then small brownish flocks of vanishing birds race." Okay, so she is on her way to their house. It's so powerful, you guys. And so I also want to recommend, there is a movie called The Quiet Girl. It's on Hulu. I watched it on Hulu. I loved it. It made me cry. I would say it's very, very, very true to the book. And it was a very nice companion to after reading the novel or watching The Quiet Girl. And it was a beautiful film. And this book is just phenomenal. Okay. Now these next ones aren't really in order, because honestly, like, this one really, really stood out. And it also introduced me to Claire Keegan as an author. This is Eileen by Ottessa Moshfegh, if I'm saying that correctly. This is also adult fiction. This is a very raw, gritty book. It is like 250-ish pages. It's about this woman named Eileen. She's a young woman. I guess she's kind of like in her 20s. She lives with her father, who's like an alcoholic, and he's very crass and kind of like just not really, I don't know. It's like you kind of feel bad for her. And then she basically, it's about her, she also works as a secretary at a boys' prison. And then she meets this woman that ends up kind of like, she meets her through the prison. And it's kind of about like her life as a loner, kind of isolated from society. Even though she has like a job, she's like productive in society with her job. And she's very much a loner. It's very crass. It's very raw. Not everybody will like this type of novel. It's because of the crassness of it and the greatness of it. I loved it. It kind of reminds me of like Bukowski or like Henry Miller. It has scenes of things that Eileen does, that you're just like, wow, she really wrote that down. Like the author, she really wrote that. Like, it's just very raw and gritty. And it has like a small crime element that happens towards the end. It's not like real, I don't know how to explain. It's more like the emotional, and it's like a character-driven story of Eileen. And I didn't really connect with her as a character, but I empathized with her. I felt like you just kind of wonder how her life would have been different if she would have not had the family situation that she had. And then like it's just very interesting. And yeah, so it's also, like I say, it was a character study based on Eileen, her relationship with her father, her relationship with this new person, this woman that she meets, I don't know if I want to use the word obsessed, but she kind of comes like she's like really interested in this woman. She's also kind of interested in this other man, this prison guard who works at the prison. And then it's like, at the same time, she's like the definition of a loner. and you kind of like, it's just a very interesting story. Atessa Mosfeg is a very interesting writer. Also read My Year of Rest and Relaxation, but it didn't make my top 10. But it starts off, yeah, it's based in the 60s, and she's kind of telling this, and then it ends up where it's like her modern, like where she's older. And so it says, I look like a girl you'd expect to see on a city bus, reading some cloth-bound book from the library about plants or geography, perhaps wearing a net over my light brown hair. You might take me for a nursing student or a typist. Note the nervous hands, a foot tapping, a bitten lip. I look like nothing special. It's easy for me to imagine this girl, a strange, young, and mousy version of me, carrying an anonymous leather purse or eating from a small package of peanuts, rolling each one between her gloved fingers, sucking in her cheeks, staring anxiously out the window. So it's very much like in her head. I love novels like this, like very much. I mean, both of these are literary fiction. I love literary fiction. And I really think if you like literary fiction and reading about kind of strange, loner type female characters, you'd really like this. Okay, you guys. Now, my next... Okay, I have like a batch that are very fairy tale-ish. And let me start with the adult fiction because I also have some middle grade. So this is Angela Carter. This is 3 books in one, but the only one I read and the one I'm sharing as my top 10 of the year, one of my top 10 is The Magic Toy Shop. So Angela Carter, this is 3 books by her. I haven't read the other 2 yet, but I want to. So I did finish The Magic Toy Shop and I loved it. So it's the first book in this series. Sorry, it's the first book story in this, this first section, of the larger book. And it's very short. It's like 200 pages. Okay. So The Magic Toy Shop, it's hard to even describe. It's also a very, very, very short book. You might hear my baby in the background. My daughter's playing with him. Okay. It is about, I don't want to say too much to give it away. It's called The Magic Toy Shop. It's very much like fairy tale-ish, very much like realistic fiction. But it's called The Magic Toy Shop because this girl, Melanie, she ends up, one of her family members owns a toy shop. And that's why it's referred to The Magic Toy Shop. And she ends up spending a lot of time there. I don't want to give too much away because it doesn't have like a blurb in this copy. Let's see. It says on the back, so it won't be giving too much away. Okay. Let's see. When 15-year-old Melanie's parents are killed, so it tells you right there. I'm not laughing because they're killed. I'm just saying, like, it pretty much tells you. So when 15-year-old Melanie's parents are killed, she is sent to London to be raised by an uncle she has never met, an eccentric toy maker who lives with his mute wife and her 2 brothers, one of whom becomes Melanie's first love. Okay, this is very, very, very much a coming-of-age story. It is very much beautiful writing. It's very beautiful prose. It has a lot of like innuendos and kind of secret things I will not discover until I reread it multiple times. It's very packed, I think, with layers about becoming a woman and like childhood versus like being innocent and like coming of age and like growing and becoming an adult, but then yet kind of still holding on real tight to your youth. And it really shows the dynamic of that struggle. And I really thought that was very complex and very interesting for such also a very short book. And it's so Melanie, because her parents are killed, she becomes an orphan. She's orphaned. And so I really connect with books about orphans. And then it's also the thing, it kind of also reminds me of Foster, where she has to go live with new relatives and she knows nothing about them. So you get to know the dynamics of that household versus the household she was in and kind of all the emotional stuff that goes into that transition. So it's a very powerful book. I can't wait to read other books by her. Okay, you guys. Next is a series. And one of the novels came out this year. So I'm sharing these as a series, but they just count as one book. So this is a Shady Hollow series, and I apologize if they're not in order, but they have 5 novels. This is a mystery series. It says a murder mystery, but it's like very, very, very light murder mystery. Like it's very like like, to me, it crosses, like, to me, like, it's not like a typical crime mystery book where like, they have like gory details, nothing like that. Okay, so this was the latest one that came out. This is Summer's End, and it was very nice reading it over the summer. And basically, look how beautiful the covers are too. Basically, it's about this group of animals that live in this little town called Shady Hollow. And so since I read this one in 2024, I included all of them as one book because I'm recommending this series. You have to start with the first book. And I've shown these before on my channel. But basically, it's animal crime mystery. How unique. It is based on a fox named Vera Vixen, who's a reporter. She has a friend who's a crow who owns a bookstore. And then there's like animals that own like a cafe and like other stores in the town. And basically the fox, Vera, in each book is trying to solve a new mystery. So I really enjoyed the Shady Hollow mystery series, and they definitely made my top 10 as a series. And I always like to try to solve the crime alongside Vera. And I really like all the town animals that you get to meet in the book. And it's by two women. They call themselves Juno Black, but it's actually two authors that write this novel series. Okay, you guys, so I would say like a group of the next ones I have are like middle grade and children's classics, because I had so much going on this year with having a newborn. I really focused on reading shorter books, and I focused more also on like middle grade and things like that. So I did read The Girl Who Speaks Bear by Sophie Anderson. She also wrote The House with the Chicken Legs. I read that one also, but it didn't make my favorites, but I really liked it. So basically, this is about a 12-year-old girl named Yanka, and she is like kind of, she was discovered in a bear cave as a baby, and the other children make fun of her for her size. And she really wants to find out like why she was found in a bear cave, and more about her history. So she wakes up one morning to discover that her legs have transformed into bear legs. She knows she has no choice. She must leave her village before her neighbors shun her. And she leaves home, enters a snow forest with her pet weasel in order to gather clues about her past. So it's kind of an adventure story, but not. It's more like, I would say it's like fairy tale folklore on the edge with realistic fiction. It's not over the top. It has like, of course, the fairy tale elements, but it also has a lot of grounding and like it's about relationships and friendships, and the relationship she has with her like found family, and also with her like with animals. And I thought it was a very, very interesting read, and I really loved it. And the next one is a children's classic. It is Pollyanna by Eleanor H. Porter. So I finally got around to reading Pollyanna. I really had been wanting to read it for many, many years. This one has like a little bit of illustrations before each chapter, but that's it. It's really not. I thought I was gonna have more illustrations, honestly, because it had, illustrated by Kate Henley, but it's just those few illustrations, just the chapter beginnings. So basically, Pollyanna is about an orphan who moves in with her aunt. I'm holding my baby. Sorry if you hear him. He was, yeah. So basically, Pollyanna, this novel really inspired me to think positive, even though that's very difficult for me. It's not like it solved that issue for me. Like, I read it, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to think positive. But it's very much about positive thinking. And Pollyanna she has this game that her and her dad played called the Glad Game. And it's kind of like just about gratitude. And that was very interesting. I really needed that this year. I really needed to read a book that was like, had characters based that, she didn't call it gratitude, but same thing, the Glad Game. It wasn't labeled technically as gratitude, but that's pretty much what it is. And that's pretty much their way of, so many words, you could use so many different words, right, for gratitude. And that was basically what I loved about the novel. It's all about, trying to find happiness or hope, or seeing hope in tough situations. And they definitely have a lot of emotional things, more like kind of like, no, I don't just call it emotional, but like Pollyanna, she's very happy-go-lucky, but there are things that happen in this novel that kind of test her like lesson and her glad game about gratitude and things like that. And so that was really nice to go to read, you know, the things that she went through and things that I went through in my own life, trying to use the glad game for me personally. So I would say it's a I thought it was like much deeper than I thought it was going to be. And I highly recommend it as a classic. I think it would also make a really good read aloud, and I think even adults would really like it, because I never read it as a child, but I finally got around to reading it and I loved it. And I'm reading the second one right now, you guys. So this is my favorite children's author of all time as far as like novels are concerned, and chapter books and things like that. This is Kate DiCamillo, The Hotel Balzar. And this is A Normandy Tale. And this one is a short, I don't know if you call it a novel or like a chapter book, I'm not sure. But basically it has a lot of illustrations. They look like woodcuts to me. I'm not sure if they are woodcuts or if they're just, you know, somehow in that style. But they're beautiful. And basically, she has a series. The first one was The Puppets of Spellhorst, which I also liked. But this one, I was really happy to read it in 2024 when it came out. And this one's like look at that illustration. This one was, I would say, like a masterpiece. Like it was just phenomenal. It's like at the Hotel Balzar, Marta's mother rises before the sun, puts on her uniform, and instructs Marta to roam as she will, but quietly, invisibly, like a little mouse, while her mother cleans rooms. So her mother works at the hotel, and they're both staying at the hotel because her father's not in the picture in this moment, and they're living at the hotel. And basically, it's about this little girl kind of navigating this hotel, Marta, and she meets these different people that are staying at the hotel and kind of makes friends with people that work there. And so it's kind of also like a mystery of what happened with her father. And it says she begins to unfold the secret to her father's disappearance, and through this storytelling that this woman tells her. And it's very layered. It's very interesting read. And I love all Kate DiCamillo's novels. It's really hard to describe because it's kind of has like this fairy tale element to it, but it's also very much like realistic fiction. And then it's very smartly written with layers, with the storytelling and the mystery. And it's just hard to describe. I would just say just read it if you're interested in Kate DiCamillo. Even if you're not interested in Kate DiCamillo, all of her novels are great, and this one's no exception, and I just loved it. Okay, the next book that I read was Snow and Rose by Emily Winfield Martin. I mean, that was one of my top 10 favorites. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm like totally suffering from lack of sleep, and my brain cells are half dead. Basically, Snow and Rose is a reimagining of the classic but little known fairy tale Snow White and Rose Red. So I really loved this retelling. It has the beautiful illustrations by the same author, you know, the author illustrator. And I love the way the illustrations are, and then just the design of like the other pages. And I really love the retelling. And yeah, so since it's based on that classic fairy tale, it's just basically these kids. They had a mother and a father who loved them more than the sun and the moon, but then their father disappeared into the woods, and their mother disappeared into sorrow. So this is their story, and I really loved it. So I'm not going to talk too much about it, since it is based on that fairy tale, but you know, I really used to not be a big fan of retellings, but over the years, I've grown to really love them, because it really is like, that's the thing about storytelling. And, you know, so one person can hear a story, even when you're like, say, retelling, explaining a book or a movie to someone. Like, some things might change in your head, and then you just, if you're an author, to go with that, like just to use your imagination and not change too much, but just change enough. And there's like a perfect harmony in that, I think, when authors get it right with retellings. And this is a perfect example of that. And it's just a beautiful fairy tale, and I loved it. So next is another book by Sophie Anderson, and this is also a retelling. This is a Snow Girl, based on the fairy tale, which is like I think a Russian fairy tale called The Snow Child. And so again, this is another great one by Sophie Anderson. And let's see, this like, so it's inspired by the traditional Russian fairy tale, The Snow Maiden. And it's about this child that is made out of snow that comes to life. So I have an adult fiction that is called The Snow Child, and then I have some picture books, and then this was a really unique middle grade novel with the retelling basically of this child that was made out of snow. And basically it's like when Tasha builds a snow girl with her grandpa, all she wants is for her to be real. If only wishes on snow could come true. Then Tasha meets Elena, sorry, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, Alyana, a friend made of wishes, starlight, snowfall, and magic. But when your best friend is made of winter, what do you do when spring comes? So it's always that conundrum because she's made out of snow. And I like how different authors interpret that. And I thought this was a really beautiful retelling of that. So my last favorite before I get to my daughters is The Tear Thief by Carol Ann Duffy, illustrated by Nicole Ceccolli. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. The illustrations are gorgeous. That's what first drew me in. And pretty much always why I'm drawn into picture books is because of the illustrations. So this also is very like fairy tale-ish. It's basically about a tear thief. It's like the tears that the tear thief values most are the ones that are made of pure sadness. So when she hears a little girl crying on the pavement for her lost dog, she's quick to reach out for them. But it's raining and the little girl notices a strange reflection in the puddle at her feet. "Who are you?" she asks, and a special friendship begins. So it kind of reminds me of like the Tooth Fairy, except it's like a tear thief who like shows up when there are tears. But she really, really likes tears that are like really sad. My favorite tears. I really like crying as expressing emotion. I think it's a really good emotional release for adults and for children. And so I really collect picture books based on those emotions and on emotions. And this is a nice one that I added to my collection this year that I discovered. And yeah, so it's all about emotions and tears and featuring the Tear Thief. So yeah, so now I'm going to quickly go over my daughters. Okay, so she picked 10 favorites of the year. I'm gonna quickly show you guys the other 9, but I wanted her to talk about her very favorite book of the year, which is
Lightfall by Tim Probert.
The Girl and the
Galdurian.
Okay, so
it's about.
Is it fantasy or?
Yeah, very much.
So it's fantasy middle grade graphic novel.
I think he likes the illustration.
He's sitting here with us. Okay, so what's it about?
It's about a girl who goes to find Grandpa and she meets this Galdurian, the cover of the fog-like thing.
Galdurian, that's a Galdurian?
Yeah.
It's like a creature.
And there's this like darkness creature that's basically trying to take the sun away, and she goes and she basically tries to find it to stop it from taking the light.
Oh, okay, so
that's why it's called Lightfall, because like
he wants to take the light and just have darkness. Yeah. Okay, so this is a series.
Yeah, there's 3 currently, but there's another one coming out soon. In 2025. Another thing is like I love the illustrations. It's some of my favorite illustrations I've ever seen. Like,
yeah.
Really
okay, so let's quickly show them your other 9. So that's our top book of the year.
So this one is The Lord of the Rings 2.
She's still reading this, but she thinks it's going to be one of her favorites, so she wanted to include it in the video. But this one she technically didn't finish yet, but she struggled to come up with 10.
Yeah.
She really, really liked 9, and then I told her, I was like, I want to do 10 and 10, so this was like her 10th, kind of, because she's still reading it.
Yeah, it's very dense, but I love it.
Okay, next.
This is just a placeholder. This is in the Frost Warriors camp, but
You
I
want.
read them all from the library, and this was the only one I had.
So the Warrior series is one of her top 10 books of the year.
Yeah, it's my favorite book of all time.
Middle grade fantasy involving cats.
Yeah. Well, it's my favorite middle grade book of all
Is
time.
it fantasy?
No.
Sorry, I said fantasy. Is it like you said? It's kind of like adventure where these cats have like tribes, clans.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like adventure
Yeah.
with some magic because it's animals. So next is Ophi's Ghost
by Justina Ireland.
This was a homeschool book that I chose for her to read, which is kind of like historical fiction based in 1922.
I liked it because it wasn't just adventure. It was also about like her wanting to like deal with her father dying.
And like the ghost of memories. So you really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
Kiki's Delivery Service. This book was so positive and just like lighthearted. Like I just really liked it.
And these are all middle grade fiction, and I mean some might be YA, but most of these are all middle grade fiction. And we of course love the movie by Hayao Miyazaki, and this is what the movie's based on.
Next up is The Lost Hero by Rick Riordan. It's in the same universe as Percy Jackson. It actually has some of the main characters that also overlap, but it's about a different story though.
Is it mythology?
Yeah, Greek mythology.
Greek mythology. Okay, so she really loves almost everything by Rick Riordan.
Yeah.
And another one by Rick Riordan, it's a different series.
Percy Jackson, yes.
Percy Jackson and Olympians, and you read the whole series.
Yes, I did.
So here's another one of her top favorites of the year.
Yeah.
And these are based on Greek mythology.
Yes.
Another one, Rick Riordan.
This is based on this one's on Greek mythology, this one's on Roman mythology, and this one's on Norse mythology. Okay. It also has one that is on Egyptian mythology, which I wish I could put in this video, but I read last year.
So this is Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard.
Yeah.
And you read the whole series, and this is I believe that this one is YA.
This is also a trilogy.
Okay. So you really enjoyed this one.
Yep.
Based on Norse mythology. And then, okay, so the next one is
Common in Moomin Land.
Common in Moomin Land.
I really like this
I wonder if is it Tove or Tove?
Tove Jansson.
Is it Tove Jansson? Okay. So
Yeah,
this one's like kind of like a children's classic. I don't know if it's considered a chapter book or middle grade, but
I like it.
Look at the illustrations. They're really nice.
I like it because it's also really positive. Like all these things that most people consider bad, like their house, like it goes away on a flood, just like circles around the wall, and they're all just positive. Like, let's have tea on the roof. Let's build our furniture up in the flood. And they're just so positive. And, like whatever happens to them, they never are negative.
So the Moomins are this cute little family. Yeah. And it's very cute, and she wants to read the entire series.
Yeah.
Okay, and so the last one, which is the 10th, but not necessarily in order, is the Wendla series by
Tony DiTerlizzi.
This is a search for Wendla.
I haven't read the Spiderwick Chronicles yet, but I really like this, so I think I will like the Spiderwick Chronicles.
Yeah, he also wrote the Spiderwick Chronicles. This one's heavy in illustrations, which are gorgeous. That's what drew me in. I actually found this book for her at a thrift store. Also, I'm going to have everything linked for you guys in the description. But I found this for her at a thrift store. I had never heard of it, but I immediately saw the illustrations, and I was like, I think she'll love it because it looks like fantasy. It's like a lot of these creatures.
It's like science fiction fantasy.
Yeah.
It's based on Earth, but really far in the future, and it's kind of like not really apocalyptic, but there's all these weird creatures and like all these scientific like gadgets and devices, and like her tunic can heal cuts, and like it's like there's lots of robots and stuff.
So let's tell them, I forgot to mention this in the beginning of her section. How many books did you read in 2024?
70, give or take a few.
So she read approximately 70. She always reads way more. She always reads like double what I read. I mean, I read 30-ish and she read 70-ish. So yeah, so she had a really good reading year. And thanks so much, you guys, for watching this video. I hope you guys had a really good reading year and or found something interesting in this video. So here's to a great reading life for all of us upcoming year. And Happy New Year. Take care. Bye.